Udah live di YouTube live. Di chat bilang lagi aja ada juga live di YouTube gitu. Jadi biar mereka bisa cek. Ini kita mulai aja atau belum? Oh belum. Oke, baik. Sambil kita menunggu ya setting di tim teknis, saya menghimbau untuk Bapak Ibu yang masih duduk di belakang, mungkin bisa diisi nih pintu kursi di depan nih sebelah Pak Rendro. Mungkin Pak Tony bisa bergeser ke sini, sekalian ngobrol sama Pak Rendro, Pak Emil mungkin bisa geser. Ayo, silakan di depan. Kosong soalnya kasihan. Oke, udah mau mulai. Ya, selamat siang Bapak Ibu semua yang hadir di Zoom ataupun di YouTube Biro PLH Provinsi DKI Jakarta. Good afternoon ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and esteemed participants, both here at the Novotel Hotel Cikini and joining us also online via Zoom and also via YouTube Biro PLH. Welcome to the inaugural Jika Talks. Please give hands and reaction everyone in the Zoom. Yeah. We are thrilled to have you all with us today for the exciting event as we launch Jika. What is Jika? Jika is Jakarta's information and knowledge access platform, and today's theme is empowering green cities, shaping sustainable building futures through collaboration, innovation, and strategic investment. And we are here to share knowledge, foster collaboration, and drive forward sustainable solution for our cities. So not only for Jakarta, but also all cities in the world, especially the Southeast Asia. So before we begin, allow me to share a pantun. So for everyone, maybe not from Jakarta or Indonesia, we call it pantun. The translator will translate it to you. So to set the tone for today's event. Oke. Burung terbang tinggi ke awan, mencari makan di tengah taman. Kurang keras cakepnya. Kita ulang lagi ya. Ayo bersama-sama kita wujudkan kota hijau untuk masa depan. Terima kasih atas perhatian Anda. Sebelum kita mulai acara ini, kami mengundang para undangan khususnya yang hadir di Hotel Novotel ini untuk berdiri menyanyikan lagu kebangsaan Indonesia Raya.
Recording in progress.
Silakan duduk kembali. Sekarang, let me take a moment to introduce the goals of today's session. So besides the event marks the launch of Jika, today also marks the first edition of Jika Talks. These talks are designed to promote collaboration and innovation in the field of urban sustainability, with a specific focus on energy and buildings. You will hear from experts share knowledge and collaborate on practical solutions that we can apply to build greener cities. We will also be hearing more about Jika in details, and future plans will be shared later in the event. Please help me with the next slide. So for those of you joining us online through Zoom, I would like to share a few quick guidelines to help ensure a smooth experience. So please use the rename button to add your name, like your institution first and then your name. And then don't forget to fill in your registration at the link. And I think the committee will also share the link in the chat. And don't forget to register, because at the end, I think the committee already prepared the certificate for you. And please mute when the event has started, and it will avoid the background noises. And use the chat function if you have any questions or comments during the session. And then stay engaged. You can also open your video so that we can see your faces and your excitement during this discussion later. And for our on-site participant, please make sure turn off your mobile, the silent mungkin Bapak Ibu, so that it keep them for minimize the distraction. And kindly take a seat so we can begin promptly. Now let's move to the program. And today we are honored to begin our program with opening remarks from Ms. Hui Yi Yong, the Head of Implementation for the UCAP CAI program at C40 Cities. We are grateful here for her presence today through Zoom to set the stage for our discussion. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Hui Yi Yong. Ms. Hui, give your reaction. Clap, clap.
Yes.
In the Zoom. Okay, please wait.
Thank you very much, really, for that introduction, and big congratulations to DKIJ on the launch of Jika. So, selamat siang, good morning, or good afternoon, and assalamualaikum. I am Hui. I am the head of implementation of the UCAP CAI program, which are supporting Jakarta with 2 high-impact actions in energy and buildings, as well as mainstreaming inclusive climate action. So please allow me to address our distinguished guests today, joining us in person as well as online. So pertamanya, Bapak Afan Ariansyah Idris, the Undersecretary for Development and Environment, DKI Jakarta Provincial Government. Bapak Joko Agus Setiono, Governor Deputy for Industrial Trade and Transportation. Bapak Sopan Arianto, Trainer Specialist, Widai Yuswara BPSDM DKI Jakarta. Bapak Mahendra Wirawan, Trainer Specialist, also from BPSDM. Representatives from the British Embassy Jakarta, as well as our distinguished speakers, Engineer Kennedy from Quezon City, Kelvin Tagamipes from IFC, our C40 colleagues, distinguished guests and participants online, in person. And it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the first Jika Talks on empowering green cities, shaping sustainable building future through collaboration, innovation, and strategic investment. This event is organized by the DKI Jakarta Provincial Government through the Bureau for Development and Environment, and supported by C40 UCAP Climate Action Implementation Program, which we have the pleasure to lead and support. We are very grateful to the UK government for its generous support of the UCAP CAI program, which covers 3 regions of Latin America, Africa, and Southeast Asia. In Southeast Asia, the program focuses on energy and building sectors. Together with Kuala Lumpur and Quezon City, Jakarta is proud to contribute with 2 high-impact priority actions. The first one being to enhance and implement green building policies, which involves a drafting of a governance regulation or a Rapergub on energy and water efficiency to meet its 30% by 2030 target. The second priority action is to institutionalize energy efficiency as well as energy management initiatives. And we are supporting that through the development of a net zero carbon buildings roadmap to ensure all of the initiatives that's contributing towards reducing emissions are enshrined in one place. This also includes managing data as well as energy usage for monitoring consumption in buildings. Today's event is not only part of the knowledge sharing tenet that we have under the UCAP Kai program, but also marks the launch of Jika, Jakarta's Information and Knowledge Access Initiative. This initiative reflects Jakarta's commitment to sharing our experiences with other cities, both within the C40 network and beyond. This is important because we hope that the other cities, particularly those around Jakarta, can take this opportunity to learn from our efforts in green, energy, and water efficiency with buildings, and to incorporate these practices into their own climate action plans. We are very honored to have Quezon City as one of today's speakers, as a fellow Kai city, and we are looking forward to hear about their experiences and lessons learned in their own climate action journey. We are also very honored to have C40 Cities, a global team from Benefits as well as Energy and Buildings team, as well as from IFC, all of whom will share valuable insights on the journey in helping the cities to achieve better energy efficiency, renewable energy adoption, as well as other green practices. We are also very privileged to have our keynote address from senior officials of the UCAP Kai program in Jakarta, senior officials from DKIJ, provincial government, which will provide a deeper look on the vision and progress of Jakarta's UCAP Kai program, as well as Jakarta's initiatives beyond Jika. A very big thank you to all participants who are taking time to attend online as well as in person for your time, commitment, as well as attention. We are also looking forward to your contributions from your experience in embarking on the green journey. Through initiatives like Jika, we aim to build stronger partnerships and to enhance the city's capacity to take bold climate action, because we would love to learn from each other to avoid making mistakes in our own journey as well. We hope that today's discussions will inspire continued knowledge sharing, collaboration, as well as action long after this event within Southeast Asia and beyond. Let us continue to build on these conversations and share knowledge that will help shape a greener, more sustainable, and resilient cities in the years to come. Before we proceed with the rest of the program today, I would like to invite all of you to watch a special video to mark the launch of Jika. This initiative, again, is testament to Jakarta's commitment in elevating our capacity to engage in how to tackle global urban challenges and to foster collaboration across cities. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Wishing everyone a productive learning session this afternoon. Terima kasih, and please enjoy.
Thank you so much, Ms. Wei Yong, for those insightful opening remarks and for setting the tone for our discussion today. And as Ms. Wei already mentioned, before we proceed with the keynote speech, we are excited to officially launch Jika with a short video that showcases our vision for this platform and the opportunities if it offers for collaboration and knowledge exchange. Welcome, Pa Afan. Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a moment to watch the video of Jika.
Mau bikin ya pola untuk natural base solution nih, kira-kira gimana ya, kita ada kajian-kajiannya nih yang kita mau belajar untuk kita bisa lihat dari negara lain, terus ya studi-studi lah ya. Di mana sih biasanya website kayak gini udah ada belum sih?
Kayaknya belum ada deh, Bu.
Iya ya, kayaknya kita perlu banget ya.
Nah, kan kita butuh nih mencontoh kota-kota lain atau negara-negara lain yang sudah high ranking lah ya untuk kota global seperti itu. Nah, kira-kira kalau waktu Mbak Farah sekolah di luar kan ya dulu ya di Belanda, di sana ada nggak sih web yang menyediakan jurnal atau kajian-kajian penelitian terkait dengan pengembangan kota seperti itu?
Kayaknya banyak deh Pak di sana. Beberapa gitu ada sih.
Ada ya. Kalau di kita udah ada belum Mbak ya?
Kayaknya belum ada deh Pak.
Oh gitu ya.
Nah, saat ini kami berupaya untuk memenuhi target tersebut dengan berbagai macam strategi. Kendala yang kami hadapi saat ini memang keterbatasan informasi maupun data ataupun konsep secara urban yang terintegrasi dari beberapa OPD ataupun stakeholder. Ini yang membuat kami akhirnya tidak bisa bergerak dengan leluasa.
Tugas Dinas Bina Marga berkaitan dengan pengelolaan infrastruktur jalan, trotoar, serta kelengkapan jalan lainnya yang mengusung konsep complete street dengan kolaborasi antar SKPD. Oleh karena itu, apabila tersedia platform yang menyatukan data, tentunya akan mendukung peningkatan kinerja Dinas Bina Marga serta SKPD lainnya.
Cukup kompleks bukan permasalahan yang ada?
Terus solusi konkretnya bagaimana, Bu?
Kita perlu merancang sebuah platform untuk menghubungkan berbagai dinas dan instansi, sekaligus membuka ruang dan inovasi yang bisa mempercepat informasi kota.
Hah? Platform bagaimana, Bu?
Jakarta Information Knowledge Access sebagai jembatan antar sektor di Provinsi DKI Jakarta, mendorong dan bersinergi antar sektor pembangunan dan lingkungan hidup, yang di dalamnya terdapat informasi yang diperlukan oleh seluruh pemangku kepentingan. Hal ini selaras dengan visi Jakarta sebagai kota global, di mana Jika terdiri dari 3 pilar yang saling berkaitan, Jika Talks, Jika Library, dan Jika Hub, yang terangkum dalam platform Jika Hub. Dengan adanya Jika, memandang Jakarta menjadi bagian dari jaringan kota-kota global yang terus berkembang melalui kolaborasi internasional.
Berarti Jika juga menjadi pusat referensi bagi kota-kota lain yang mau mengadopsi pendekatan serupa dalam pembangunan berkelanjutan.
Benar sekali. Dan kita perlu belajar dari praktik-praktik terbaik di dunia yang dapat mempercepat upaya pembangunan.
Terus bagaimana dengan masyarakat?
Jika juga membuka ruang bagi masyarakat untuk berperan aktif dalam membangun Jakarta yang lebih baik dengan mengutamakan kolaborasi, keterbukaan, dan juga transparansi. Jika tidak hanya menghubungkan ide-ide dan inovasi, tapi juga menjadi gerakan yang melibatkan semua pihak dalam menciptakan perubahan. Jika memungkinkan setiap instansi untuk saling bertukar informasi dan praktik terbaik. Pendekatan ini penting untuk menciptakan integrasi antar sektor dan menemukan solusi yang lebih efektif dalam menghadapi tantangan pembangunan. Jika akan terus berkembang untuk memperkuat peran Biro Pembangunan dan Lingkungan Hidup dalam menghubungkan berbagai sektor, pemerintahan, dan masyarakat dalam jangka panjang, serta menjadikan Jakarta sebagai contoh kota berkelanjutan yang bisa diadaptasi oleh kota-kota lain. Platform ini mengajak semua pihak untuk berpikir jauh ke depan dan bertindak bersama dalam menciptakan masa depan Jakarta yang lebih sejahtera bagi semua. Jika akan terus berkembang untuk memperkuat peran Biro Pembangunan dan Lingkungan Hidup dalam menghubungkan berbagai sektor, pemerintahan, dan masyarakat dalam jangka panjang, serta menjadikan Jakarta sebagai contoh kota berkelanjutan yang bisa diadaptasi oleh kota-kota lain di
Congratulations, Jika. Now we have officially launched Jika, Jakarta Information and Knowledge Access. Let's proceed with our keynote speaker. It is my honor to introduce Pak Afan Adriansyah Idris, the Undersecretary for Development and Environment of the DKI Jakarta Provincial Government. Pak Afan will share Jakarta's bold vision and ongoing efforts toward sustainable development and climate action in Jakarta. Please join me in warmly welcoming Pak Afan to the stage. Pak Afan, silakan naik ke panggung for his keynote speech, and for our online participants, please feel free to use your reaction to show your support.
Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Jadi Bapak Ibu, mungkin sebelum saya menyampaikan speech, saya mohon maaf dulu. Karena begitu banyak agenda, bukan cuma dari hari ini, tapi mulai dari beberapa hari lalu yang harus diselesaikan. Termasuk hari ini pun juga banyak agenda yang harus diselesaikan, jadi kami dan Pak Karo hadir terlambat di ruangan ini. Sekali lagi saya mohon maaf. Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon and salam sejahtera for all of us. Dear Honorable Pak Karo PLH, Mrs. Hui Yeyong, Head of Implementation UCAP AI Program C40 Cities, Mr. Paul Cartwright, Mrs. Honorin van den Broek de Obrenan, Mr. Kennedy Diokno, Mr. Kelvin Vergara Taknipes, and all participants who joined today. First of all, please allow me to express my gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, because with His bless, all of us, we could join and gather today in Jika Talks event with the title Empowering Green Cities, Shaping Sustainable Building Futures Through Collaboration, Innovation, and Strategic Investment. Ladies and gentlemen, as we all know, various countries in the world are currently facing global challenges in the form of climate change. To overcome this problem, we already have Paris Agreement document at the international level. In recent years, world leaders have stressed the need to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius by the end of the century. And we from Indonesia, as part of the international community, the government of Indonesian Republic established the National Determined Contribution, and there we have some target for Indonesia, and we from Jakarta Provincial Government, as part of the Indonesian Republic government, we also contribute to reduce the GHG emission according to the NDC. In 2021, the Jakarta Provincial Governor established the Governor Decree number 90/2021 of Climate Resilient Low Carbon Development Plan. And here in the document, we have some target. We will reduce 30% of emission by 2030, and we have also the ambitious target, 50% by 2030 also, and we will reach the net zero emission by 2050. Ladies and gentlemen, next, please allow me to share about the overview of Jakarta. That Jakarta, previously it was the capital of Indonesia, but after the law number 3/2022, we transforming, becoming the global city. Jakarta, we have big enough about our citizen, more than 11 million citizens. So no wonder if we become the one of the largest mega city in the world, Jakarta is number 4. So no wonder, as the mega city, large amount of energy and water supply are needed to meet the need of people of Jakarta, not only for our citizens, but also for many people or many stakeholders who have some activities, business, and etc. in Jakarta. From economic perspective, Jakarta contributes 17 to the national GDP. And if we together with our neighborhood, Bekasi, Tangerang, Depok, Bogor, and etc., the contribution of the great Jakarta to the national GDP around 24%. In my opinion, it's a big enough contribution, yeah. To accelerate the realization of Jakarta as global city, economic growth and property development are continuously to be encouraged. This certainly increases energy and water consumption in Jakarta. In terms of emission reduction, the DKI Jakarta provincial government gives special attention to building sector. Why? Because the sector is the highest contributor of GHG emission in 2022 with a percentage around 51%. Indirect GHG emissions originating from electricity usage are the main contributor to DKI Jakarta GHG emission, and currently there are around 1.75 million buildings in Jakarta. Meanwhile, existing buildings will grow up to almost 97% overall floor area by 2030, and this means that electricity and water consumption are predicted to remain high and continue to increase in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to support the realization of climate resilient development in building sector, we from DKI Jakarta, we have several strategies. First, the application of green building certification. And second, the installation of solar panel on private and also public buildings. Third, development of net zero school. There are currently 15 schools which become very efficient energy building. These schools implement green design, green material, renewable source of energy. It also encourages students to be environmentally responsible. Jakarta provincial government consider that the efforts that I have already mentioned before are not enough. Therefore, Jakarta provincial government, in collaboration with the C40, is currently drafting for the governor regulation related to energy and water efficiency in building sector. The regulation is needed to support the target of greenhouse gases reduction in Jakarta. And here we have several keynotes of this new regulation. I mentioned some of the 7 keynotes. First, we will focus on retrofit in Jakarta, and we know that Jakarta is dominated by existing buildings, so low cost but big impact parameters, it will be our prioritize. Second, determining energy and water performance standard. At the operational stage, all buildings are encouraged to be energy and water efficient. Several buildings, such as vertical housing, commercial buildings, and schools are designed as compulsory for energy and water efficient buildings. Third, promoting green behavior. Green building must be supported by green behavior. Otherwise, the benefits of the green building will not be optimal. Fourth, strengthening reporting and monitoring. Jakarta will develop a platform for reporting and monitoring of energy and water consumptions in buildings. We also believe that the success of the implementation of green building will depend heavily on the effective incentives, disincentive, and sanctions. Ladies and gentlemen, in this good opportunity, please allow me to appreciate the development of the new platform constructed by the head of Biro Development and Environment, Pak Iwan Kurniawan, which is very relevant to overcome the current challenges in many cities in the world, especially in Jakarta. I hope that this platform can help as much as stakeholders, including the government, community, academic associations, and the private sector, by making it easier to share and access the best practices of global city in dealing with urban problems such as climate change. We hope that innovative solutions can be produced based on the comparative studies on global cities in the world. So with this platform, Pak Karo and all participants, I hope that all of us, we can exchange for many information, many knowledge, and also many experience. Because I know, I'm sure that many of you, you have so many experience here, and also so many knowledge that can help Jakarta to overcome the problem of climate change. Before ending my remarks, allow me to express my gratitude to the various parties who have helped Jakarta, central government elements, which have provided many guidelines, C40, which helped advocate various regulation and policies in Jakarta, professional associations, experts, and the communities which also support the implementation of various policies in Jakarta. In principle, we can all play a role in preserving the earth where we live. To conclude my remarks, I wish everyone very productive discussion in this Jika Talk events, and I believe that this event will enrich us with useful information and provide many benefits. I also hope that today's discussion can bring out constructive input that we can apply in our respective countries or cities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Afan. And now, before we dive into the discussions, let's take a moment for us to capture this historic moment. So we are going to take a photo session. So please, from the technical, how are we going to do it? Maybe in the Zoom, people in the Zoom, you can, participants through the Zoom, please open your video so that we can capture this historic occasion. And Pak Afan? Yeah, we are asking Pak Afan to stay for a while so that we can take photo. Please, the cameraman, yeah. Maybe we from the stage and then take picture here, that's fine. And then, can we see the all people in the Zoom in the screen? Yeah. Thank you, everyone. So, yeah. Okay, tahu. Oh, Pak Asbang udah oke. Thank you, Pak Afan. All right. Now we come up to actually what we are waiting for, the exciting part for today's event, our panel discussion. So before that, I'm going to introduce our moderator for today, for this session, Pak Surendro, C40 Regional Senior Program Manager for UCAP Kai program, who will lead us through the discussion. Please join me in welcoming Pak Rendro to the stage. Pak Rendro.
Yeah, thank you, Mbak Fili, for the short introduction. So allow me to introduce again myself. My name is Surendro. I'm a regional program manager for the CAI program, Climate Action Environment Program. As mentioned, maybe it's already mentioned by Wei also that CAI program is in Southeast Asia. A bumper. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay, just to repeat that CAI program, Climate Action Implementation Program, is under UK and government grant on the UCAP, Urban Climate Action Plan, Urban Climate Action Program. And in Southeast Asia, there are 3 cities, Jakarta, Kuala Lumpur, and also Quezon City. So, again, it is my honor to serve you as a moderator for this important session of Jika Talks. As we dive into this session, let me first connect this discussion that we are going to do in very short time to broader context and objective of the Jika initiative. So Jika, as already also introduced in the beginning, that Jika is a Jakarta Information Knowledge Access platform that aims to elevate Jakarta as a global leader in urban management, climate action, and inclusive development. And it is promoting the collaboration, transparency, and innovative solution through knowledge sharing. Today's focus is on energy efficiency and buildings, a critical sector for reducing carbon emission and achieving sustainable urban development, as also already mentioned by Pak Afan in the earlier speech. So this aligns seamlessly with the objective of Jika and the UCAP CAI programs to share knowledge, foster cross-sectoral integration, and scale solution for climate action. By bringing together expertise from UCAP CAI Southeast Asia cities or the C40 cities network, we hope to inspire new partnership, actionable ideas that support green and just recovery in our region. And now, we have a privilege to have with us the esteemed speakers who will share their insights and experience on advancing energy efficiency in building. Let me introduce them briefly before inviting each to share the presentation. Yeah. So before I start, so everyone already joined, right? Mbak Wida, the speakers. Okay, thank you. So our first speaker is Paul Cartwright, Program Manager for New Building Efficiency at C40 Cities. He is based in London. Paul manages the New Building Efficiency Network, helping cities enhance energy efficiency and achieve net zero carbon goals for new buildings. He also oversees technical assistance programs like the C40 South Africa Buildings Program. Previously, as principal consultant at UK's Building Research Establishment, or BRE, Paul led a sustainable building project for public and private sectors, focusing on low carbon housing and building performance innovation. He holds a bachelor in geography and international relations from Lancaster University and a Master in Urban Development Planning from University College of London. So Paul will share insights from Global C40 Network, focusing on best practice and lesson learned that cities like Jakarta can adopt. So Paul, are you here?
I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Please proceed with your presentation, Paul, for approximately about 10 minutes. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for the introduction, Rendra, and thank you to the City of Jakarta and partners for hosting and inviting me to speak at this special event today. I actually spent 3 days at Novotel Sakini in July, so it's nice to see a familiar surrounding, but also some familiar faces in the audience today, so that's really special. I'm really excited to hear about Jika and how it will support the city in the implementation of its climate actions, in particular to support actions in the building sector, a key focus for emission reduction as outlined by Under-Secretary Idris. Knowledge sharing is at the core of C40's work and bringing cities together to share best practice and solutions. So I understand how important Jika will be as a knowledge platform for Jakarta and to just share the city's important work as a global leader in climate action. I'm going to share some global insights on climate action for energy and building decarbonisation from cities, taking ambitious action for energy and building decarbonisation. And with 35% of emissions in C40 cities are from the operation of buildings, this can reach 70% in some cities, and therefore moderate energy efficiency policies are not adequate. So cities have to set out ambitious scenarios in their climate action plans to reduce these emissions. And these require highly energy efficient buildings with the remaining energy demand met by on-site renewable energy, and where this isn't possible, also using off-site renewable energy. Next slide, please. So what defines an ambitious building decarbonisation policy? Here are some elements reflected in cities' policies as they plan the transition to low and zero carbon buildings. Mandatory policy actions using building codes are recognised as a key measure to regulate the energy performance of new and existing buildings and ensure higher emission reduction performance, while voluntary actions have a role to play. It is mandatory codes that can deliver the step change performance required if supported with robust compliance and enforcement strategies, alongside supporting programs such as incentives and capacity building to keep the market moving forward. These codes include requirements for energy efficiency, but can have a wider scope implement.
Hello, Paul. Still joining? Still. Okay. Sorry, Paul, we cannot hear you here, so maybe we'll try to fix the technical issue. From the explaining about the mandatory codes, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Iya, iya.
Recording in progress.
Can you try, Paul?
Okay, Paul, you can try now.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, good. You can continue.
Shall I just continue from where I left off? Or yep. Okay. So and finally, codes can provide the holistic requirements to regulate for safe, healthy, high-performance, resilient, net zero carbon buildings. Integrated policies can help future-proof policies for considering interaction between mitigation and adaptation to climate change. For example, how energy efficiency actions can address urban heat risks and keep buildings cool. Another growing consideration is looking at emissions not only from the operation of buildings, but also the embodied emissions, considering emissions across the life cycle of a building, from the extraction of resources to make the materials, through to the operation and then to the end of life of buildings. These emissions are growing as a proportion of a building's total emissions, so greater consideration to address these is needed. Next slide, please. To illustrate the current status of policy for building decarbonisation, this global analysis by the Global Alliance for Building Construction shows that while there is progress, there's still much progress still to be made. 2/3 of countries have no mandatory or voluntary code for minimum energy performance requirements for new buildings, but cities with building policy powers can accelerate action and influence action at national level to raise performance requirements. Secondly, performance levels of codes will need to increase to align with the ambition of key emission reduction targets, but also maximize the benefits in terms of green jobs, more comfortable and healthy buildings that high performance buildings can deliver. Next slide, please. So some cities have committed to some of the most ambitious commitments to decarbonize buildings. So now we'll talk about the C40 Net Zero Carbon Buildings Accelerator, which aims to drastically reduce greenhouse gas emissions from buildings, which are significant contributors to city emissions. This initiative promotes the development of efficient, clean energy powered buildings that provide comfortable, healthy living and working environments while reducing costs and pollution. Recognizing the long-lasting impact of today's building practice, the accelerator encourages immediate action to avoid locking in future emissions, ensuring benefits are like lower energy bills and cleaner air. So mayors in over 27 cities have made 3 commitments. One is to enact regulations and or planning policies to ensure new buildings are net zero carbon by 2030. To enact regulations and planning policies to ensure all buildings, so that includes the existing buildings, are net zero carbon by 2050. And in addition, most of these cities have also committed to ensuring all their cities' municipal buildings are net zero carbon by 2030. So as you can see, the distribution of the cities is across the world. It is a core group of 27 cities currently, but this is likely to grow in future as more cities implement those ambitious policies towards net zero carbon. Next slide, please. In addition to the Net Zero Carbon Buildings Accelerator, there are also accelerators established at C40 for renewable energy, which with cities committing to increasing access to and generation of renewable energy, and also clean construction, whereby cities are committing to decarbonising construction activities through the materials used and the processes used to build and retrofit buildings from the use of lower impact materials and machinery used on construction sites. And now to road mapping for net zero carbon. One of the key commitments that cities pledging to meet the Net Zero Carbon Building Accelerator have made is the development of decarbonisation roadmaps. These provide clear and specific plans for building decarbonisation, with interim targets and milestones between now and 2050. Roadmaps are recognized as providing greater certainty to the building sector on what is required and when, informing investment, innovation, and capacity building needs to meet these targets. This applies to city administrations as well for municipal building decarbonisation, as it helps set targets for these buildings and can help plan for budget allocation and project financing needs against emission targets. Setting specific energy use intensity targets with target dates and building against different building typologies, and setting policies that address and distinguish between new, existing, and municipal buildings can provide those specific pathways to net zero carbon. Establishing systems to collect data and report on building performance is essential for effective implementation to inform continuous improvement. And then a net zero carbon roadmap is currently being planned for Jakarta, for example. Next slide, please. I will now turn to some examples for the policy action cities are implemented to deliver on the target set. So firstly, in South Africa, two cities, the cities of Johannesburg and Durban, are the first cities in Africa to implement net zero carbon building policies to deliver net zero carbon new buildings and major renovations by 2030. Implementation activities include developing green building training programs and establishing compliance and data reporting systems for the new policies. In Tokyo, Japan was the first city in the world in 2010 to place mandatory emission targets on buildings, establishing a top-level facilities program, which recognizes and rewards building owners who demonstrate outstanding performance in emission reduction. And 1,200 buildings have installed over 11,000 emission-saving measures, and further increases in performance requirements will be introduced in the near future. In Sydney, Australia, using development planning powers, the city has adopted energy performance standards for new buildings and major renovations, focusing first on commercial buildings. The policy starts with raising energy efficiency standards and then introducing further on-site renewable energy generation requirements to deliver net zero energy performance. Next slide, please. And now moving to some further examples with more of a focus on energy decarbonisation. Firstly, in Cape Town, South Africa, the city established the small-scale embedded generation program that allows households and businesses to install generation systems such as rooftop solar PV and export power to the grid for credit. The city maintains a list of type-tested and approved inverters and is currently working on an online application portal to facilitate additional small-scale embedded generation and ensure the safety of the grid. And concluding with two examples from Brazil. Firstly, in Curitiba, the city launched the Solar Pyramid, a solar power plant on a deactivated landfill site with a generation capacity of 4.5 megawatt of power. This project, supported by C40's Cities Finance Facility, is a project of over 8,000 solar panels that is contributing to helping reduce CO2 emissions by 90,000 tons between 2020 and 2050, and make a significant saving on the municipality's energy bill, as well as contributing to green job creation. And finally, in Rio de Janeiro, the city became the first municipality in Latin America to sign a power purchase agreement, ensuring 100% renewable energy supply to the main municipality's headquarters. This will avoid around 40,000 tons of CO2 emissions in the next 5 years, as well as deliver significant savings. And next slide, please. Further examples of policy cities are implemented can be found on C40's Knowledge Hub that provides articles, case studies, implementation guides, and tools for city officials and other practitioners on energy and building related topics. And this content is available in English, but also in other languages, including Bahasa Indonesia. And I think this hub there's a great opportunity for ongoing collaboration as Jakarta has developed the Jika platform for using these resources to provide a great learning resources for cities across the world. And as a final thought, You might now be thinking, while these policies will deliver the significant emission reductions needed, how do we ensure urban citizens buy into this change and benefit from the transition to net zero carbon? Honorine will now share some of the benefits of this transition and how cities can assess these benefits and provide the evidence base that can help support policy changes. Thank you. Terima kasih.
Yeah, tes keluar. Okay. Okay, thank you, Paul, for those inspiring insight of your presentation about several items on the defining ambitious of building the modernization. Also, some example of the city leadership. Also, the resources and tools in C40 Knowledge Hub that we can access. And yeah, before I continue with the next speaker, I would like to inform the audience, especially here in this place, that we provide the coffee and snack available at front of the room. So please feel free to grab some and bringing them inside in our room to continue here the presentation from the next speaker. Okay, so our next speaker is Honorine van der Broek Overnan, our senior research manager at C40 Cities. She is also based in London. Honorine works as a benefits research senior manager, exploring climate action, socio-economic impact on communities. Over the past years, she has supported more than 80 cities, 80 cities, in assessing the health and climate impact of urban projects, from schools retrofits in Copenhagen to coal power transition in South Africa, and urban transport planning strategies in Latin America cities. Honorine has both on architecture and sustainable urban engineering education in France, and yeah, again, she is based in UK, in London, UK. So Honorine will discuss how cities like Jakarta can leverage benefits assessment tools to make informed decision and drive impactful action. Honorine, are you here joining with us?
Yeah.
Okay, we are excited to hear from your insight. Please go ahead and share your presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for inviting me here to speak to such a wide audience. All right, let me share. I think I can't share my presentation, so I will leave the organizer share my presentation. Awesome, thank you very much. So just to start with a small game, I would like to start with a question. If we can go to the next slide. Just have a think, don't worry, you don't have to share your answer. From the answers A, B, and C, how many premature deaths are caused each year by coal and gas power plants in Jakarta? So I'm going to repeat the question. How many premature deaths are caused every year by coal and gas power plants in Jakarta? Is it 1,000, 2,500, or 5,000? All right, let's go to the answer. Next slide. And congratulations for the people who chose the answer C. Yes, it's 5,000, and it's actually even more than 5,000 premature deaths that are happening every year because of coal and gas power plants. Next slide. Let's go to see that more in detail. So on this video that you will be able to access after the conference, you will see how the coal plants are spreading air pollution onto Jakarta, even from very long distances. So the pollution here is shown from yellow to red, with red being the highest concentration, and it varies every day of the year depending on the weather patterns. And these pollutions can penetrate very deep into the lungs and are linked to respiratory and cardiovascular diseases that causes illnesses and mortality even at low concentration. So this is why in 2019 coal power plants were responsible for 1,000 570 premature deaths, and gas power plants were responsible for over 4,000 premature deaths just in Jakarta itself. So why am I starting with this quite difficult introduction? This is just to highlight the fact that reducing the electricity demand from the grid with efficient building and transitioning to renewable energy can really help to improve public health. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah, great. So this is also true for buildings themselves. So beyond the outside air pollution, buildings are really important because we spend 90% of our time inside buildings, our house, our offices, our friends, our family. And it really impacts our health because, for example, ventilation can remove the harmful pollutant from inside the house, especially when we're cooking, for example. But also, good lighting during the day can help us sleep better at night, and it can also improve our well-being. Good temperatures are really important, especially when you're working. It helps you focusing. But for people who are more vulnerable, it is a key component because it may induce more risks if there are higher temperatures. And finally, also the view on green space is just as important. There's new research now that shows that an increased view on green space from your hospital room can improve your recovery time for patients in hospitals. It also improves our well-being on the everyday basis. So a lot of components of buildings can have a really direct impact on your health and well-being. And next slide. And I've talked a little bit about greenery as well. Great. Green roofs can really help also to reduce temperatures, and that's both for inside the building because they provide a buffer for temperature, but also for outside the buildings. They reduce the risk of heat island effect. So that's for the heat risk. It also helps reducing flooding. And how does it do it? Is it increases permeability, so it creates a buffer space during flooding, and that enables to reduce the flooding risk for the rest of the city. And finally, green roofs can also improve biodiversity. Next slide, please. So far we've seen that building efficiency and thank you. Building efficiency and renewable energy can improve outdoor and indoor air pollution. It can improve our well-being, our sleep. It can reduce the risks for vulnerable population, especially in high temperatures. It can reduce the risk of flooding, but it can also boost job creation, especially when a lot of existing building will need to be retrofitted. It can boost the jobs in that field, but it can also boost the job in the renewable sector. And what's really interesting is that a new demand for jobs is gonna rise, and these jobs can be skilled. So it's interesting to look at what this new population of workers is going to appear and how to prepare them for to have the skills to tackle the transition to more efficient buildings. Next slide, please. In the case of Jakarta building regulation, we looked at other impacts beyond the health, beyond the job creation, the social impact. We also looked at the impact for the bills on residents on a daily basis. So with the current proposition of the building regulation, the residents, if they are using the regulation and making sure that their building are compliant with the regulation, could save a lot of money from their energy bills. That would correspond to 2/3, 60% every month. That would be reduced from their energy bills. So it has a social aspect that is quite important. And at last but not least, the building code could help to reduce electricity consumption of buildings of at least 30%. And in consequence, also reduce the carbon emissions from building. Next slide, please. So now that we have understood that buildings can improve our health, boost jobs, reduce energy bills, and fight for climate change, I'd like to ask another question. So when we're trying to push for improvement for the building sector, what type of challenges do you face? Is it a lack of budget? Is it a lack of interest? Trying to think, what's the usual ones that come? Yeah, development costs. Next slide, please. So you will see appear a few of the points that you may have thought of. You're not alone. This is usually what we hear back from our cities and C40. So the most often quoted challenges concern usually it's not the priority of the mayor, or it's not the priority because we've got other social, we have other health challenges that come first. We also have no budget. So these are different points that we usually hear. And what we want to share with and being able to share the impacts and benefits of building efficiency is that building is not just for the building sector. Building efficiency is important because it tackles social and health challenges. So it can be a priority for all departments, and it can help all departments solve their own issues. Next slide. So this is why we are talking about the benefits of building retrofits today. We want to ensure that we have enough knowledge to ensure that first we can evaluate the option. So when we are looking at different retrofits or different building efficiency, we're not just assessing it in terms of energy or greenhouse gases, but we're also assessing it in terms of the social aspect. How much saving does it bring for the residents? How does it improve their health? It's just as key as an aspect to enable to evaluate the best option that is both from a health perspective and from an energy perspective. It can also ensure that we are measuring the impacts that matter not only for ourselves, but for also other departments, so that we can see if we are matching their own targets, and it can help us get more political and financial support, also more public support if we're explaining why this is important for the population. And it helps discussing with other departments in that way as well, and breaking silos between departments, because we're all going towards one direction, which is having more healthy neighborhoods and more healthy residents in our cities. And I would like to just conclude on the next slide, which is a bit of a summary of all the benefits and all the impacts that we have seen from building efficiency on this next slide, which is the benefits on the environment, or the benefits on the health, and the social and economic benefits as well, which you can see on the slide, and if you want to refer to it later. So we can look at greenhouse gas pollution, we can look at air pollution, improved acoustics, improved temperature, reduced risks, improved recovery time, and creation of jobs as well. So I conclude on this slide and pass over back to my colleague. Thank you very much for listening to our presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Ono, for the sharing about the important also about the benefits research and how we implement the energy efficiency also can improve the health, creating jobs, and also some, even though there are some challenges, but there are also several benefits that we can get on the energy efficiency implemented in the buildings. So now we turn to Quezon City to hear from Engineer Kennedy Diokno. Engineer Kennedy Diokno is a licensed civil engineer and the assistant city building official for Quezon City, serving under the Department of Building Official. He leads the Quezon City Green Building Code Technical Working Group, driving initiative to enhance green building practices and policies in the city. So Engineer Kennedy will share valuable lessons from Quezon City experience in developing and implementing its green building ordinance with support from UCAP KAI program of C40. Engineer Ken, can you hear us? Hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Engineer Ken. The session is now yours, and looking forward to your presentation. You may begin now.
Yes, salamat, Parendro. Thank you very much for inviting us, Jakarta City, and congratulations for the inaugural Jika talk. And we're so honored, and it's our pleasure to join this talk to present our experience in drafting our Green Building Code for the Quezon City government. The Enhanced Local Climate Change Action Plan of Quezon City set the target, and that is where we based in the drafting of our ordinance. Next slide, please. The target of the Quezon City, as outlined in the Enhanced Local Climate Change Action Plan, is to achieve 30% reduction of the greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 and to pursue net zero emission by 2050. This was based on the greenhouse gas emission inventories conducted by the using the general protocol conducted by the city government with the assistance from the C40 Cities Organization and the International Council for Local Environmental Initiative, or the Local Government Sustainability. It was conducted in 2016 and identified that stationary energy source, or the buildings, as the biggest sectoral emitter of the city, accounting for 60% of the city's emissions, and are sourced from residential buildings for having 14.2%, commercial buildings contributing 30.7% greenhouse gas emission, manufacturing industries and construction contributing 15%, for a total of 60% of the city's greenhouse gas emission. Next slide, please. Now, for this slide, we're going to share with you our journey with the assistance of C40's technical people, especially mentioned with Miss Jessica and Sir Charlton, including Sir Paul, based in London, and Miss Wee, and also Parendro, assisting us, especially when we hired consultants and when we have some exploratory talks on our progress in drafting our code. C40 is a big contributor to our success. This journey began in 2020 during the pandemic. With the technical assistance provided by the C40 over the past years, the draft has undergone several iterations. I cannot count the number of iterations we've done, culminating in the sixth and final draft that we have today. Each version involves significant changes as we work to refine the code to meet our objectives and addresses challenges. One of the key challenges we encountered was determining the appropriate implementing agencies for the provisions of this ordinance. Some provisions fell under the mandate of one city government, while others were within the scope of different departments in the city government. To address this, we had numerous technical working group meetings where we visited the mandates of each department along with existing ordinances to clearly define which departments would be responsible for implementing each provision. This collaborative approach allowed us to onboard all relevant departments, ensuring that each role and responsibility was clearly defined and aligned with the respective mandates. Another significant hurdle we encountered was the perception among the general public that the national laws take precedence over a local ordinance, particularly in the context of the existing Philippine Green Building Code. You see, in the Philippines, in 2016, the national government came up with the Philippine Green Building Code. To address this perception, earlier this year, we sought the expertise of a consultant. We sought the help of C40 in hiring a consultant who assisted us in navigating the legal basis for the ordinance. Their insights were instrumental in ensuring the ordinance alignment with existing legal frameworks and in building public confidence in its validity. We need to have legal framework to stand on to effectively implement the mandatory provisions of our code. Throughout this process, we recognize the critical importance of stakeholder engagement to ensure the success of proposed ordinance. We understood that for the ordinance to be effective, it was essential to involve a broad range of stakeholders. To this end, we conducted several stakeholder consultations. Building owners and representatives from residential sectors, these stakeholder consultations were again organized and assisted by the C40 team. After this long and rigorous process, we were able to finalize the approval. Currently, we are working towards securing its approval by the City Council to be followed by the crafting of its IRR. These are some of the photos during our stakeholder consultations. Next slide, please. Key features of the Quezon City Green Building Code, as mentioned by Honorine a while ago, that we need to strengthen and create, especially what Sir Paul said, that we need to go to the mandatory requirements of the code in order for it to be effective. One of the key features of the Quezon City Green Building Code is the inclusion of the residential sector in the coverage. All buildings now, new and major renovations within Quezon City, based on the type of use or occupancy or type of occupancy, including the occupant load and the total floor area, will be the basis for the requirements for each building. We also highlighted the inclusion of government buildings and existing buildings with or without green building measures or specific requirements after a grace period. We plan to phase in the implementation of this green building code. The set of requirements include site sustainability, which includes the open space, and we are strongly pushing for green landscape-based design and planning for all vertical and horizontal development in our city. And letter B is energy efficiency and renewable energy, material sustainability and solid waste management. Letter D, water and waste management, wastewater management. And letter E, indoor environmental quality. For the scoring system, our strategy is the mandated requirements or mandatory requirements under existing laws and regulation will form the base points for all our applicants. For letter B, base level green building requirements will enable the applicants to obtain the building permit. And the reward level, green building, if they will exceed the base level points, they are qualified to apply for incentives. And we have the enhanced Green Building Code of Quezon City will cover all buildings. The set of requirements are categorized. And recognizing that each project may not be able to comply with some requirements, this code will have its scoring system. Next slide, please. I will share with you some of the incentives that were considered that came out from the stakeholder consultation we conducted. For the fiscal incentives, there are two types, the fiscal and non-fiscal incentives. Under the fiscal incentives, we have green residential building real property tax credits or tax rebates. And then we also have the green low income housing grant We also have green building machinery real property tax credits, and we are eyeing the voucher program for replacement of inefficient or polluted appliance or equipment with a more efficient one by giving out voucher to be paid out to the appliance store to replace their non-efficient and polluted appliances. The non-fiscal incentives, we are looking at the floor area ratio incentives, exception or additional density and height bonuses at the start of building construction, and also the recognition program. This recognition program, we have currently, the Quezon City government has a green awards, annual green awards, and we're planning to integrate this recognition program for the best design, based sustainable design, and most sustainable building. Next slide, please. And that's all my presentation. Very short one. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Engineer Ken, maraming salamat for the presentation. Yeah, and also for sharing those practical insight on developing the green building code, which is very challenging, but I believe we can still proceed with that, Engineer Ken. So our target by 2025, we can implement that one. Thank you again for the sharing. And finally, we have Kelvin Vergara Taknipes, representing the Apex Green Cities program by IFC, International Finance Corporation. Kelvin Taknipes is a regional program lead for Apex Green City, an IFC initiative to enable cities to identify and invest in low carbon and green city solution. He has collaborated with cities like Jakarta, Bangkok, Chennai, Johannesburg, and Quezon City in Philippines to develop climate action plans and green investment pipelines to unlock the most impactful climate change mitigation opportunities. Prior to joining IFC, Kelvin served as local government and environment advisor for USAID-funded project implemented by WSP and Research Triangle Institute. He was also head of urban planning at Palafox Associates, leading planning practice in the Philippines. So Kelvin will share ideas on financing mechanism for green buildings and cities with a focus on Southeast Asia. Kelvin, are you here? Can you hear me?
Yes, can you
okay,
hear me?
Yeah. We are eager to learn from your perspective. Kelvin, please start when you are ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak. Selamat sore, nama saya Kelvin Tagnipes dan saya dari International Finance Corporation, World Bank Group. Thank you very much for having us this afternoon. I'm dialing in from the Philippines. Thank you. I'd like to start by introducing briefly our program called APEX. As Pa mentioned, the APEX Green Cities program is an IFC initiative for cities to enable cities to identify and invest in low carbon solutions. IFC and C40s also have a global partnership to support cities like Jakarta by collaborating on climate action plans and mobilizing private finance for priority subnational government projects on the cities we work with. Okay? This advisory for Jakarta, Quezon City, Bangkok leverages IFC's new platform called APEX. It's a climate action and investment planning tool for cities, and this tool has been used by our colleagues present today with Jakarta to calculate their greenhouse gas inventory and projections, model over 100 built-in climate actions, including energy efficiency and renewable energy measures on buildings, as well as building their own city profile and storing that data and their sources for monitoring and tracking purposes. But I think most importantly, it allows cities to analyze their greenhouse gas emissions by sector and look at co-benefits that, may be more realistic or on the ground or tangible for cities, such as energy and cost savings, waste reduction, air quality, but also coming from the lens and the investment expertise of the World Bank Group, looking at investment costs, payback periods, and potentially job creation as well. Now, very briefly, I'd like to share how some cities have used this tool. Pilot cities have used Apex to revisit existing plans across wastewater, energy, and greenhouse gas reduction impact, as well as more tangible co-benefits, as I mentioned earlier, such as electricity savings, less traffic congestion, and improved air quality. Pictured here was our engagement with the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration, who just recently launched their investment plan, and they used Apex to estimate the cost of their climate action plan and assess their financing options. So again, Apex was used by cities to revisit and analyze their plans, but also enable and identify climate investment opportunities. Pictured here is Quezon City, who also used Apex to develop a climate investment opportunities report, which helped the city realize that investing in climate creates jobs and can nudge the private sector to invest in green buildings. So our work with C40 and the updating of the Green Building Code is very much complementary, where we try and look at private sector players, developers in the city, to look at how they align with the targets of the city, specifically the greenhouse gas targets. Okay. Just a brief, just going back to that introduction by Sir Kennedy, right? Quezon City has a 30% reduction target. Some of the potential solutions that they identified do focus on buildings, municipal and private buildings. And we measured and modeled those proposed actions in Apex to look at how impactful are those measures and how much they will cost, and is it on the private sector or will it be a direct cost to the city? And just to give you an idea, this tool allows cities who use it to come up with a few outputs. One is a greenhouse gas emissions pathway. What actions does a city have to take to reach its targets? Second, a green investment pipeline. How much will these actions cost and how impactful are they in reducing emissions? And last but not the least, an investment report to recommend how identified projects and policy interventions can be implemented and financed. So that last point is what I'd like to discuss, looking at how cities like Quezon City, Bangkok, and hopefully Jakarta as well, as we wrap up our own Apex engagement in the city, how can they implement and deliver green buildings in the city? Okay. Of course, Jakarta is one of our partners, one of the partner cities in the World Bank, partnering with the World Bank Group to utilize this Apex tool as one of our pilot cities. And hopefully, we expand to work with a few more Indonesian cities who are interested in looking at how to finance their climate action plans. Okay. Allow me to talk about the Green City Accelerators in the built environment space. Okay, just quickly on the context, you might look at the potential to reduce emissions, right? This is the target of Jakarta, a 30% greenhouse gas savings reduction. And you see a few big components of this reduction pathway. You see renewable energy and rooftop solar, you see green private buildings, you see green municipal buildings. So there's no way to reach the greenhouse gas savings target without looking at energy efficiency and renewable energy in the building space. Just jumping to another city, Bangkok did a similar exercise, and you can see here that 77% of the cost of climate action is with the private sector. 33% of the cost of climate action is on private buildings, private green buildings, as well as another 15% of that cost is necessary for the city government to upgrade its own buildings. But how do we implement or deliver those changes or upgrades in buildings? We also looked at financing mechanisms, and I want to talk about these two items that are highlighted. One is on-bill financing, and the other is energy as a service. And cities like Bangkok, Quezon City, and I believe in an upcoming exercise with Jakarta, we want to look at the feasibility of these financing mechanisms to green buildings in the city. So the first mechanism is energy as a service. I'll leave this here. We'll share a copy of it. But essentially, this is where customers, the city government pays for an energy service per kilowatt hour of solar power, per ton of cooling from air conditioning, without having to make upfront capital investments. Cities like Quezon City, Jakarta, and Bangkok have told us they don't want to necessarily spend their own revenue for these upgrades. They want to have off-balance sheet solutions, private sector solutions, and we'd like to explore this with the city. Just building on Sir Diokno's presentation earlier about Quezon City, this is an aerial view of the Quezon City Hall compound. There are around 21, 22, 23 buildings in this compound. And to give you an idea of the energy use in these buildings, 70% of it is in air conditioning. And that's why Mayor Joy, City Administrator, and our other colleagues from Quezon City asked us to look at a solution that focused on cooling. That is an ongoing discussion, and hopefully we're able to implement this quite soon. Okay. Last but not the least is on-bill financing for green purchases and upgrades. It's a financing mechanism where payments are done through existing utility bills of a customer. So for example, in Jakarta, that would mean a slightly increased payment in your PLN bills, right? Just to illustrate this a little more slowly, the utility, PLN, Meralco, MEA in Bangkok, creates this on-bill finance program. Banks then can lend to building owners, commercial malls, big apartments, and other building owners who will use that money to make improvements. Now they repay this bill through a long-term payment scheme, 10 years, 15 years, depending on cost of the investment, through an increased utility bill. So if I can show you here, right, your original utility bills, let's say, is 5,000. You're able to identify contractor, implement all of this, and once all those energy saving, energy efficiency mechanisms are in place, you can see that actually your total bill reduces and you are able to pay for the cost of these upgrades on top of your existing bill. But what we call bill neutrality, even if your upgrades, even with upgrades, the cost of the upgrades being repaid monthly, because the energy savings are quite significant, your savings still outweigh the additional cost of these repayments. So actually, even after the repayments and all that payments, your bill isn't higher than your original bill without these upgrades. Now, these are being done in Africa. The on-bill finance programs exist in Africa, South America, as well as in the United States, where this is a very big market as well. So I hope that gave you an idea of the many ways to finance green building upgrades in our cities. I'd like to end here and say that, building resource efficiency is one of the most impactful and affordable ways to cut emissions. Here, more than 60% of Jakarta, Bangkok, and Quezon City's greenhouse gas emissions are from buildings. And that's why when we meet with mayors, governors, they think about it and say, why aren't we doing more in this buildings space? And hopefully we can work together to transform our built environment. Again, thank you very much. If you have any questions, or please feel free to send us an email or reach out to our C40 partners on the ground. And I believe my colleague Bella is also in the room. So if you have any questions on the tool, I hope she can also entertain some of your concerns or queries. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kelvin, for sharing the apex and also the Green City Acceleration highlights and some key insight that building play a significant role to reduce the greenhouse gas emission. So thank you very much for the sharing. And now everyone, that all those speakers already shared the insightful presentation. So we will now open the floor for question, whether you are joining us on set or...
korbannya gue.
Yeah, whether... Yeah, there is a... Yeah. Whether you are joining us on set or online, please feel free to raise your hand or type your question into the chat box. So to guide us through the Q&A session, I'm pleased to welcome Bapak Iwan Kuryawan, Head of DKI Jakarta Development and Environment Bureau to join me on the stage, Pak Iwan. Ya, no, belum. Ya, just to accommodate. Ya, Bapak Iwan, with Bapak Iwan leadership and deep understanding of Jakarta Sustainability Initiative will be essential as we address your question and further explore to these key topics. So thank you, Pak Iwan, to joining me with on the stage for this Q&A session. Is there any question from the audience here or from the audience in the Zoom? Oh yeah. Tes. Yeah. I saw there is no question yet in the Zoom, so maybe I can start to have some question for each speaker while we are waiting the question in the Zoom or also from the audience here in Novotel Hotel. So maybe I don't know if I can ask to Pak Iwan first, maybe ya Pak Iwan. You can share more about Jakarta first. Ya Pak Iwan, so yeah. There is no question, so yeah, no question. So saya tanya Pak Iwan, saya tanya yang speaker. Ya, oke. Oke. From Pak Joko, maybe you have any question? Ya Pak, ya please start with the question. For any speaker Pak.
Ya, terima kasih. Dalam bahasa Inggris atau bahasa Indonesia? Indonesia boleh. Oke, mungkin saya akan menyampaikan satu topik pemantik diskusi pada sore ini dalam bahasa Indonesia. Memang dari kisah sukses dari beberapa kota tadi dan juga mungkin kajian yang sudah dilakukan ya dengan C40, memang salah satu yang juga penting adalah green behavior-nya dari masyarakat, Bapak Ibu. Nah ini memang kebetulan ada topik juga social inclusion ya di C40 dan itu memang ternyata tadi juga disampaikan oleh Pak Afan ya tentang green behavior tadi. Nah ini memang apakah memang dari para pembicara sebelumnya dari beberapa kota memiliki program mengenai transformasi atau mengubah perilaku hijau gitu. Karena memang ini kebetulan juga berlaku juga di unit kerja saya Bapak Ibu gitu ya. Karena walaupun bangunan-bangunannya sudah dibuat hijau gitu dengan teknologi dan lain sebagainya, desainnya pun oke, tapi hal yang paling menarik itu adalah operatornya. Jadi bagaimana membersihkan ruangan itu, lalu bagaimana pel-pelan, airnya dibuang kemana, lalu setiap pagi mendinginkan kantor gitu ya, AC-nya dipasang semua padahal belum ada orangnya gitu ya. Harapannya memang supaya kami semua datang bangunannya udah dingin gitu. Tapi wah ini pas kita datang kedinginan nih, 16 derajat gitu. Nah ini kan memang satu hal yang ternyata bagaimana ide tentang bangunan hijau, zero emission carbon atau energi tadi juga perlu ada satu program tersendiri. Bagaimana juga menyadarkan dan mengubah perilaku hijau tadi bukan hanya pada pengguna tapi juga sampai operator atau pengelola bangunan ke unit terkecilnya. Nah mungkin para pembicara yang sudah menyampaikan tadi berdasarkan kisah sukses mereka di negara lain mungkin ada insight terkait ini. Mungkin ini sebagai pemantik dari saya. Terima kasih, semoga bermanfaat.
Ya. Mau jawab dulu? Ya. So mungkin ada satu pertanyaan lain dari kementerian sebelum nanti dijawab oleh pembicara. Pak, ada pertanyaan? Silakan Pak. So the first question is about change behavior and second question, ya Pak, silakan. Pakai bahasa Indonesia saja boleh Pak. ada interpreter juga. Terima kasih Pak. Silakan berdiri
Selamat
Pak.
siang,
Ya,
Pak.
silakan boleh berdiri Pak. Ya, terima kasih.
Selamat siang, saya Darmadi dari Kementerian SDM. Saya menindaklanjuti tadi yang paparan daripada pembicara tadi terkait yang pertanyaan dari siapa tadi Pak? Pak Joko. Saya emang benar ya kata Pak Joko yang terkait grand behavior itu sangat penting karena saat ini untuk merubah mindset karyawan untuk berbuat lebih baik itu susah gitu Pak. Dan juga mungkin di negara lain mungkin perilaku itu sudah terbentuk daripada saat di sekolah ya. Mungkin kalau di kita mungkin masih bukan berarti sekolah kita kurang bagus tapi penekanannya mungkin kurang ya Pak. Mungkin saya minta sedikit saran terkait tadi yang juga ada beberapa pertanyaan saya. Sebenarnya sih ada yang terkait one bill tadi tuh Pak, saya masih belum paham juga tuh Pak. Yang saya terakhir, yang tadi dari pembicara terakhir terkait one bill itu tadi Pak, satu tagihan tadi Pak. Ya, terima kasih Pak.
Yeah. Okay. I think there are two questions for the speakers. The first one is about the change behavior from Pak Joko. I believe the translator already have some translation that. So maybe if Honorin or engineer can and also Paul can share your insight or your knowledge on that. And then the second one is about about the change behavior, but also Pak Irwandi from Ministry of Energy also asked about Kelvin, your explanation on the last slide on the green bill, something like that. So maybe you can explore more to explain that. So I don't know, Paul or Honorin or Engineer Ken, you can answer the first question about change behavior. Thank you. Maybe Paul first.
Sure. Thank you for the question. Yeah, I think in terms of I think depends on the building and who's the type of audience, but I think there are initiatives that cities are taking in terms of improving engagement on what does a green building mean and how is it operated, and improving the interaction between building managers and the users of the building. One example is more on I suppose on the residential sector in terms of understand what is a net zero carbon building, for example. So I know in Cape Town, for example, I mentioned the net zero carbon building policy the city developed a couple of years ago. They've been drafting, and one of their concerns was, if you use the term net zero carbon, it can seem quite a sort of technical term, and it doesn't maybe it maybe has limited meaning without understand what does that mean in reality of my home and how it would operate and what are the kind of features within the building. So they developed a sort of interactive exhibition in terms of they built a kind of pilot sort of exhibition space in the center of Cape Town, and where people could come see what type of materials, type of energy efficiency measures would be in a net zero carbon home, for example. So I think that kind of very interactive type of approach was very effective, because it was open to everyone, and I think provides some inspiration of a net zero carbon home is a practical solution. It's not something that's just named in a policy and it can't be implemented. So I think that's one of having those kind of very interactive opportunities is one way that some cities have gone about gone about it. And then if you're maybe considering for example, a city's own, for example, a city's own municipal office buildings, for example, and how users interact with that building and look at their sort of green behaviors, as was mentioned. I mean, one of the things that Jakarta is now looking at is looking at some of their operating procedures for buildings, and this looks at providing some of the training of facilities managers. I think this provides an opportunity not only to look at the more technical elements of how the people responsible, the facilities managers, help manage the energy efficiency, but also provides opportunities how they can engage with the users of the building to ensure that when the building is commissioned and that there's an interactive process of working with the users of the building in terms of the comfort of the building, how they use certain features of the building if they've had upgrades and energy efficiency. And so I think part of that is also about the communication and how you work with the users and simplify maybe some of the concepts that maybe from a technical perspective into what does that mean for how I'm using the lighting, or how am I using the shading on the building? What sort of behaviors can I do as a occupant of the building without detailed understanding of the building physics and the technical elements. But so I think it's about the providing simple messaging, but also and simple tools, and I think some of that can be done through through some of those procedures. So.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Paul. So basically, that the understanding of the net zero carbon itself is very important, so that they are aware on that. And then the second thing is about the operational procedure, that everyone need to understand how it's important to turn off the light, something like that. So that's just the thing that can trigger the change behavior, I think. Yeah, that's to summarize what Paul mentioning about the change behavior. And is there any additional thought from Honorin on that?
Yes, thank you. I think we had a really complete answer from Paul. One aspect to consider in the rebound effects, the difference between what we're expecting the building to reach in terms of efficiency and the actual efficiency that we see in the building after retrofits and modification or for a new build, it's quite an interesting effect to do. So there's obviously a part that we can cover through infrastructure, but yes, the user is so important. So that's why some of the aspects that we heard from Kids and Steer is quite really interesting in terms of the stakeholder engagement and how important it is from like the early design into even during the implementation phase, because that will take years to change behaviors, and it can come with every level of ages as well, from very early at school. It's really interesting to see what different aspect can be done. One of the aspects as well is always a bit of a debate, and that's where sometimes health and energy don't always go together. There's also a part of how much do we want to leave it as choice for the user versus how much do we want to impose the choice, impose the conditions on the user. So the ability of even, for example, opening a window to choose our own ventilation and choose our own temperature gives an impression of well-being, but it's less good for the energy. So it's always of a balance to find between what we want to have more efficient building, but while keeping a good well-being as well in terms of the balance of being able to control the environment. So again, that really links to the work that has been really successful in Kids and City in terms of engaging with the stakeholders and being able to communicate, that Paul was also mentioning.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Ono. And engineer, do you have any sharing on that? Maybe based on your experience in your office, on the building office, and also maybe you can also answer also the question from Ono in the chat also about the stakeholder engagement and also the about change behavior that you are experiencing in your practical in your city. Thank you.
Thank you, Parendro. Yes, I agree. We need the Philippines is an archipelagic and part of the. It's situated in the tropics, just like Indonesia. So we share the same climate and weather. With that, we're looking into strengthening the architectural passive designs of our buildings in Quezon City, especially. As what Paul mentioned, that we need to go back to passive cooling. We all know that the energy generations are the one that are emitting these greenhouse gases through the use of fossil fuel. By reducing the energy demand of a building, and we know that cooling a building is the one that is demanding so much energy, electrical energy, which is used fossil fuel to generate electricity in our country. So by strengthening the passive design or architectural features or building envelope, we have already achieved 50%, and we have already won 50% of the battle. Halfway of the battle has been won. And addressing the question of Ma'am Honorine regarding how was the stakeholder engagement led, we invited them to participate in the crafting of our Green Building Code, and we were surprised that the participants or the attendees were receptive to the idea, because when we started the engagement or the meeting, I told them that the Quezon City government is trying to come up with a Green Building Code wherein our policy is to work with the environment and not against the environment. So with that design philosophy or that policy or principle, we want to create a green building code that will benefit even the most vulnerable and the underprivileged sector of our society. So we want to come up with I told the stakeholders that we want our green building code to be robust, equitable, and inclusive. So with those objectives, we were already sending the message to all the stakeholders, homeowners, the design professionals, and the developers that we really mean business in Quezon City. And what we learned, the lessons we learned is we learned from the stakeholders. There were some input that came out from the participants that we really appreciate and we really factored in crafting the draft of our ordinance. I hope my answered the question.
Thank you, Engineer Ken. We know that in QC we are very implement the collaborative approach on this green building code revision and discussion. And the think behavior also important on the implementation of the green building code. So I think those the question from Pak Joko. And now the second question is about the on-bill financing case studies. Kelvin, can you explain more on this? Because one of we are very interesting to know this. Can you share? Is it Kelvin share the screen, right?
Yes. Just so that everyone can also see.
Okay.
But I sent a screenshot of it in the Zoom chat.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. On-bill financing is one of those mechanisms that and complement, let's say, a green building code that mandates energy efficiency and renewable energy upgrades. It also complements it because yes, these are now mandated, but how do households or businesses upgrade their buildings? So a utility, let's say, let's say in the context of Jakarta, right, it's PLN. You can see here 3 other examples of utilities, electricity utilities in other countries that wanted to upgrade different kinds of appliances, air conditioning, refrigerators, old old appliances, right? And they wanted to upgrade it. You can see how they also structured their programs. In some cases, some focused only on non-residential customers, some focused on households, right? You can also see some targeted specific kinds of appliances, like old refrigerators above 10 years old, or for example, the case in Tunisia focused on increasing solar PV adoption across buildings. So the idea here is that because our utility bills allow us to review or provide the basis for credit, right? When we do financing, we also want to look at credit history, and what better way to check credit history than someone who is already connected and is paying their utility bills, right? So for a bank to lend to a household that wants to upgrade their appliances or upgrade their buildings, it allows for a less risky investment for a financing company to lend through an on-bill financing program. So again, as I mentioned earlier, because the savings of energy efficiency and all these other upgrades are typically very significant, maybe even up to 50% of your existing energy consumption, the payments for these for these upgrades are neutral to your bill. And that is, just showing you the discussion here, assuming, let's say, you pay 5,000 a month. I know it's not equivalent to our rupiah, but you can see here that even if the upgrades are done and you are paying for these upgrades over a longer period of time, the total bill that you still pay monthly is still lower or even at least the same as your current bill. So it also tries to, encourage households to say, I can take this risk, if you can call it a risk, to upgrade my households because I will still be immediately benefiting from the savings and can still afford my existing bill, right? So, and I think last point on behavior, the first question was really interesting to me because you can see the cost or the investment in your utility bill on your electricity bill, right? A customer is better able to connect the financing of, let's say, solar or new lighting or new air conditioning because they can see the savings immediately in their electricity bill, right? So an alignment of costs and benefits immediately in one's electricity bills is one of the, let's say, social and behavioral aspects of this on-bill financing program. So in Bangkok, we're trying to explore this with their city utility. Hopefully, this is something of interest to our utilities in Indonesia as well, if our incentives align. That's all. Thank you. I hope I was able to give a better understanding of this financing mechanism.
Yeah, thank you, Kelvin. So, is this something that more or less similar with the ESCO or something that? What do you think? Just more explore on this.
It will involve some kind of company like an ESCO that does the upgrades, right? But
Okay.
the difference here is that payments are through your utility.
Okay, understand.
So, right, the repayment cycle is through the utility.
Mm-hmm.
The building owners pay back through the utility and not through,
Not.
let's say, to the bank or directly
Yeah,
to
yeah,
the
yeah,
company.
yeah. So through
Yeah.
the electricity lewat PLN kayak gitu Pak.
PLN,
So
yes.
so need to have an agreement first before.
Yes,
Yeah, right.
correct,
Yeah,
correct.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, we can talk. Maybe with Mbak Bella also here. So Bella also can explain this, right, Kelvin, to the audience. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Is there any question? I saw here. Saya lihat di sini ada sudah nggak ada ya? Dari Depok udah nggak ada? Ada. saya lihat di sini ada dari kota lain, from Depok, dari Bekasi. Apakah ada pertanyaan, Bapak atau Ibu boleh disampaikan, boleh disampaikan langsung melalui Zoom, kita bisa mendengarkan. Bahasa Indonesia silakan, saya juga pakai bahasa Indonesia. Ya. Ya, silakan Bapak atau Ibu, apakah ada yang kurang jelas atau pengen tahu lebih jauh dari tadi yang kita sudah sampaikan? Ada? Tidak ada, belum ada. Okay. I think there is no. Yeah. Okay. So, karena belum ada, so because there is no question yet from the audience in the Zoom. So, is there any other question from? Yeah. Okay. Pak Emil.
Thank you, Pak Hendro. This is a follow-up question to Kelvin actually regarding this on-bill financing, Kelvin. My question is, what is the benefits for the company in this case, state company? In the Indonesian case is PLN in terms of on-bill financing, because my impression is that if there is a risk that state company will have lower income or lower revenue, they might not like it. This is just impression, right? Because we have a few cases, for example, for street lighting project in cities. PLN is, sorry, there's no PLN people here. PLN is reluctant to, let's say, to go with it because it will reduce their income in the city. You know, if you replace all street lights with the new LED street lights, there's high possibility that, you know, their revenue from the electricity will be reduced. So my question is, in the case of, you mentioned about what, Quezon City, right, or other case in other countries, in US and Mexico, what are benefit of this on-bill financing for the state company? Thank you.
Maybe you can introduce yourself, Pak Emil, you can introduce.
My name is Emil from GIZ.
Yeah, Pak Emil from GIZ, Kelvin. Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Very good question. There is one reason why we aren't currently exploring it in the Philippines, and that is because the utility in the Philippines is completely privatized, right? So their incentives are a little bit different. It is profit maximizing very much. And that's why we were able to have discussions like this with, let's say, state-owned utilities, like the one in Bangkok, maybe in PLN in Jakarta as well, the ones in Tunisia and Mexico, right? These are state-owned enterprises that may have climate targets on an equal standing as their revenue-generating targets, right? We also try to help them understand that there are other, the world is changing, but there are also other revenue streams specifically coming from the electrification of vehicles. And we've been able to estimate the additional increase in revenue if cities, governments are able to lead the electric vehicle transition. So in the case of, let's say, Bangkok, who also has a very high electrification EV transition target, it makes sense for them to, lose a bit of revenue, not a bit, lose a part of their revenue to energy efficiency, knowing that they will have other streams, let's say, from electric vehicles. Another way that this is interesting to other state-owned enterprises is that in the on-bill financing program, instead of having a financial institution being the one to lend to households and businesses, if the state-owned enterprise has the authority or the mandate to generate revenue from its existing pot of money, right? sometimes these state-owned enterprises can use their own money and lend that out to their households and to their businesses, and thus earning from interest rates and other financing opportunities from lending their own money for this on-bill finance program. In that way, they collect through repayments in their utility bill directly instead of having to go through another bank, right? So I hope I was able to to explain a bit better. Yes, clearly it is, the incentive is quite opposite to what a totally private utility might have in mind. For example, the one in the Philippines. But hopefully, if PLN and other state-owned utilities agree on the need to improve energy efficiency in buildings, I think this is an opportunity to get on board. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Kelvin. Yeah. There is no question. Still no question from the chat in Zoom. So. Okay. So before we wrap up this session, Pak Iwan, is there any sharing from you about the change behavior that asked earlier by Pak Joko? I don't know. But yeah, no. Okay. I think it's enough. So maybe Pak Iwan can also mention it during the closing remark later on. Thank you, Pak Iwan. Yeah. So before we wrap up this session, so for the speakers, bisa 1 menit aja, bisa? Yeah. So could you please provide a closing statement for each of you from Kelvin, Paul, Honorin, and also Engineer Ken to wrap up this discussion and also to inspire us as the participant and also as the city's official to take action on the climate action. Thank you. Start with Kelvin. Are you still there? Yeah.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
here.
Okay. Yeah. Just a short closing statement
Sure.
for this discussion.
I
Thank
think one of my key takeaways, of course, from a lot of our APEX engagements in cities is that meeting our climate action targets or climate change goals will require mobilizing more stakeholders than we imagined. It cannot just be DKI and our state-owned enterprises. More than half of the cost of climate action and climate investments needs the private sector to be active. So I'd like to keep ourselves open, especially our partners in the private sector. What can we do to nudge our private sector players to invest more in climate action? And hopefully we can follow up our work, C40, IFC's work, to engage these private sector players. Hopefully early next year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kelvin. Engineer Ken, can you provide some closing statement? Yeah.
Yes, first I would like to again salamat to Jakarta for inviting us for your inaugural Jika Talk. We are honored to be part of the first ever Jika Talk. And I would like to encourage Jakarta because soon you'll be the one going to encourage us. This collaborative approach of C40 in networking us together is a big help in drafting our ordinance. And we thank you because we're part of C40 Cities organization and we benefit from their expertise and their network of experts. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Salamat.
Yeah, thank you again, Engineer Ken. Yeah, Honorin, you can give some close statement and also a short answer also on the question in the chat maybe. So there's came out one question for you, Honorin. Also the closing statement. Thank you, Honorin.
Thank you very much. I think I'll answer in the chat box directly the question. Just for the sake of time, and just saying a big thank you for everyone to be here and so attentive today. I learned a lot from the other speakers as well, so thank you a lot to the other speakers. And I will be curious as well to see how the stakeholder engagement will also happen in Jakarta as it is happening now, because there's so many stakeholders to engage with, from departments, but also in the general public. I'd be really interested to see how this unfolds in the coming month in terms of communicating to the public as well. So thank you very much, and handing over to my colleague Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Rendro. And yes, and I'd also like to emphasize, and share my thanks for inviting me to this event today, and hearing about the great new initiative with Jika. So I hope to spend some more time as I continue working with Jakarta and other cities in how we use Jika to continue our learning between cities, and very much supportive of that. So, but to emphasize that that's some of the critical policy steps already being taken by Jakarta, as we've heard on the governor regulation and the development of the roadmap. So I hope that those can continue through to implementation, and continue to work with other cities to share the learning you're doing in Jakarta, but also get further insights from other cities around the world and within the region, like Quezon City. So I hope I can support and help facilitate some of that knowledge sharing when needed. And I look forward to continue to working with you all. And again, thank you for inviting me.
Okay, thank you for so thank you everyone for your thoughtful question, for the audience and also for the speaker for the detailed response and very engaged discussion today. So give applause to all the speakers and all of us. So to conclude this session, I would like to highlight the three key takeaways. The first one is the importance of the knowledge sharing from Jakarta initiative to Quezon City Green Building Ordinance collaboration, sharing learning are important for us to advancing sustainable solution. And then also the innovative financing models, securing the investment is critical also to scaling energy efficient solution. And the third one is leadership and local action, with example already shared by Paul and also by Honorin on the benefit. It is clear that cities must lead by example, starting with the local government initiative. So these discussions are just the beginning of what Jika hopes to achieve as a platform for transformative knowledge exchange. Thank you, and I now hand it back to our MC, Mbak Frilly, to guide us through the next steps. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, moderator Parendro, Pak Iwan, and all the distinguished speakers and panelists for the insightful discussion today. It has been a truly engaging session, and I'm sure we all leave here with new ideas, strategies, inspiration for advancing sustainable building futures and green cities. Dan untuk Bapak Ibu, terutama yang dari kota lain selain Jakarta, tadi sudah ditanyakan oleh Pak Rendro, punten Bapak Ibu, jika ada pertanyaan atau misalnya ingin belajar lebih lanjut dari Jakarta, silakan nanti C40 juga bisa mendukung dalam part capacity untuk knowledge sharing Jakarta ke kota-kota lain, terutama di wilayah Indonesia. Now, as we begin to wrap up today's event, I'd like to ask all participants to kindly take a moment. Please, the technicians, show the slide. So we are going to fill the feedback form as shown in the slide here. You can take, is it possible on the on-site, di tempat ini bisa scan ya barcode-nya, minta tolong untuk bisa diisi feedback form ini, karena kami ingin mengetahui masukan dan juga pendapat Bapak Ibu sehingga kami dapat meningkatkan kegiatan ini di kemudian. So your input is very important for us. So please take a moment to fill out the feedback form. And then, just click the barcode here, or maybe the team, if you have a link, you can also share in the chat, Mbak Wida, the link for the feedback form. Also, just a reminder to everyone, please make sure you have filled out the registration form, because it will be issued your e-certificate of participation. And we want to make sure that everyone receives their recognition for taking part in today's event. Okay, I will give you a minute, maybe. Yeah, yeah. 1 minute. Yeah. And while we're taking the 1 minute, maybe Pak Zul and the team from the Pusdatin also can prepare before I'm going to hand out to Pak Iwan for the closing remarks. Yeah. Okay, it won't take long. How many questions in the feedback form, Vida? You don't know? Okay. 5, yeah. It's not much. Sedikit kok. Jadi Bapak Ibu bisa menjawab supaya nanti nextnya dalam kegiatan-kegiatan kami dapat memperbaiki dan dapat memberikan service yang lebih baik lagi dalam membuat acara serupa seperti ini ya. I think for the panelists also, you can also fill in their feedback form for Paul, Ono, please, and Calvin, and engineering, Kenny. I will see here if anyone already fill in, already? Okay. Waiting from the ministry already fill in, Pak Ibu. Okay. Please give reaction in the Zoom if you already finished fill in the feedback form with the reaction thumbs up maybe or like anything. No? Is there any reaction? No? Yeah, I know that it's already afternoon, so okay. All right, now we come to the end of today's event, but before I'm going to invite Pak Iwan, there's one more thing. There's a documentation of Jika Hub platform. It will be presented by Pak Zul Fikri Alaidrus from the Bureau PLH. Please, Pak Zul.
Okay, thank you, Prilly. Okay. Thank you, really. Okay. Thank you for the time, Pak Rendro, Pak Iwan, Mbak Prilly. Let me introduce the Jika Hub. You can find easily in Google. Let me demo. Mr. Rangga, are you ready? Okay. Home screen. But you can find in Zoom. Yes. Okay. 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 You can find Jika Hub in Google or Yahoo. You can find Jakarta at the Jakarta 1.jakarta.go.id/Jika-Hub. Jika Hub. This is a Jika Hub home screen. In Zoom, you can find Jika Hub home screen. There's a there's Jika Hub contain 3 main menus: Jika Library, Jika Laboratory, and Jika Talks. Let's start with Jika Library. Jika Library, in this menu you can find easily journal, books, government report, non-government report, or around the world with simple categories. You can find the menus that you can find government or the source of the journal or books or research report. And then another category is from the resources, where we can find this journal. I believe that it's a little bit easy to find because we already has front of these journals. There's so many category, and of course, City of London and another C40 cities are our main contributor to the Jika library. Next is Jika Laboratory. Jika Laboratory is an open portal for everyone to discuss about the problems, or we can discuss about the research and discussion, and you can put your problems or your research, and we can discuss together in online or offline. Offline, we can find in Jika Laboratory in City Hall, 11th floor in Bureau Development and Environment. Next is Jika Talk. Jika Talk is, we are in the middle of Jika Talks. This is our first Jika Talks, and I hope it will continue for another Jika Talks. So we can share, we can discuss in the Jika Talk, and we hope we can overcome the problem that we are facing together, and we always share together. So the Jika Talks means a lot for us, and of course we hope it will continue to the other time. Thank you for this moment, and I believe and we hope that everyone started to contribute in our Jika Hub, and we will meet someday, sometime, together we will discuss in Jika Hub. Thank you.
Test, yeah, okay. All right, now the end of the event. I would like to invite Pak Iwan Kurniawan, the Head of Bureau for Development and Environment, DKI Jakarta Provincial Government, to deliver the closing remarks. Pak Iwan has been a key partner in shaping the vision of Jika and the ongoing efforts in climate action and sustainable development in Jakarta. And we are grateful for his leadership in these initiatives. So please join me in welcoming Pak Iwan Kurniawan to the stage for the closing remarks.
Thank you, Mbak Prilly. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the last session of our Jika Talks. So please allow me to say a few words before ending this amazing discussion. We are very delighted because we have learned many valuable knowledge and insight from our speakers. In a very short time, we learned about how other global cities such as London and Crescent City deliver their climate action implementation plan in the building sector. We are also reminded of the importance of the strengthen the collaboration, innovation, and strategic investment to tackle climate issue, especially in building sector. The Green City and Green Building agenda may seem ambitious, but we have no doubt that people in this room and on the Zoom online are the right people to make the effort successful. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, we greatly appreciate everyone who has been involved in today's event. I would like to give special thanks to all incredible speakers, Mr. Paul, Mr. Hanorin, Mr. Kennedy, and Mr. Kelvin Vergara. C40 Indonesia, especially Mr. Freely and Mr. Surendro, who has continuously assist Jakarta Provincial Government in implementing our climate action implementation plan. All participants attending in this venue or joining online by Zoom, all the Bureau PLH members who gave their best effort to organize this event. As Pak Asisten Pembangunan said early in this opening, I hope that today's discussion can bring our constructive input that we can apply in our respective countries or cities. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, finally, I think this is the end of our event for today. Our first Jika Talks today has ended. But please keep in mind that this event marks the beginning of the Jika platform. We hope that in the future, this platform will make it easier for us to share and learn the best practice of global cities in the world. Thank you very much for your attention and presence. We look forward to seeing you again in the next Jika events. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Pak Iwan. Thank you for those inspiring words and guiding us toward a sustainable, collaborative future. So as we conclude today's event, I would like to extend a heartfelt thank you to everyone, both online, through Zoom, through YouTube, on the on-site here, for your time, your presence, and your patience and active participation. We also grateful for our partners and collaborators who made this event possible, for the UK government, British Embassy Jakarta, for QC, Quezon City government, for IFC World Bank. Thank you very much. Your support is invaluable in driving forward the agenda for green cities and sustainable building futures. So let's together to work together, share knowledge, and create solutions that will make our cities more resilient and sustainable for future generation. So once again, thank you for being part of Jika Talks 1. Hope there will be like Talks 2, and we look forward to seeing you at our future events. Have a great day ahead and stay safe. I'm Freely Rondonuwu. The event is concluded. Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you, Ono. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Engineer Kenny, and Calvin as well. You cannot see my camera video. All right.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank
See you
you.
soon.
You can check the YouTube for the full version. Thank you.
Thank you, Rudy. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.